And we go.
Hello and welcome, everyone. We are live after the final siren of round 10 to recap all the action. I am your host and AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Tim Guest. You can find me on socials at TimGuestAU. Now, for those listening on the pod, it's Sunday the 19th of May. Come join us next time on YouTube or X and get your questions answered live. And thanks to those who have already sent in their questions. And, of course, if you want to get your question answered, simply comment on the platform you are watching. Now, joining me as always is my co-host, Bails DT. Mate, how was round 9 for you?
Fantasy-wise is okay. Football-wise was decent enough. Got to the G and Mull for the first time to watch a couple of games. Obviously not the result for the Crows yesterday, but I'll tell you what, nothing compares to the MCG. Don't get me wrong, I hated when to go put that goal through, but the roar from the G was like, it was nothing like I've ever heard before. It was like the whole stadium was shaking. It was something. I had to take myself back for a few seconds just to sort of take it in and then quickly snap back to, damn it, we're behind. How the hell are we going to win? And then Rankin does his hamstring and then it all turns to shit. So, but yeah, no, it's not too bad in the end.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. And you slipped a little bit with your ranking, but we'll talk about that soon. Let's introduce our guest. We're pretty lucky tonight. We've got, he managed to get his kids down in time, so we've got him with us. It's the GOAT. It's Selby from Mirror's Magic. Selbs, how are you, man?
Guesty, yeah, minute to spare. She went down, which is good. So all ready to roll. Bails, how are you?
Good, thanks, Sel.
Good,
mate. How'd you go with your Supercoach this weekend,
mate? Mom, it's funny. I'm about a premium and a trade behind. So each week, like I'm ticking along, but I just seem to be about 100 points behind the teams around the top. So it's the shoe's on the other foot for sure. Like normally I try to get a trade ahead of the comp and then they're all trying to follow that. But few things haven't gone my way this year, which is all part of the game. And just feel like I'm just playing catch up. I'm now well aware how hard it is to catch up because you've got the being one premium, one trade behind makes it hard.
Well, mate, I'll tend to agree with you. I think it's been one of those years. I'm certainly not having a fantastic year, and I know it was another week that went by for me that just seemed to reinforce it. But we'll do a quick. Well, how are you ranking at the moment, mate?
I'm around hasn't updated for this round. I was about 4,500 coming in. So and I reckon I'm about 100 behind par this week. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm around that or even lower. Anyway, lots of learnings. The last 6 weeks, ever since I think I went Grundy on his buy to Lloyd Meek, which if I kept that'd be looking really good. But after 2 weeks, went Meek down to Sweet to get me the cash to get Jeremy Sharp up to Tom Green, and that was a week he did his ankle. And then the next week, obviously, Sharp was out. So then got in Tim English, thinking that was at least I get a gun premium. He's had back-to-back pretty quiet ones. So I could dare say a lot of people watching this will be in a similar boat, mucking around, just playing catch-up there. But that's probably been the instigator of the flat line of the rank.
Well, maybe the guy we'll be asking for advice today will be Bails, because he seems to be the one that's flying this year. So, what about you, Bails? How'd you score this week, mate? Where are you currently sitting?
22.15 for me this week. So 7,559 ranked. So didn't turn out too bad. I just missed some of those big ceiling scores. So like didn't have a Zorko, didn't have a Marshall, didn't have a few people got Noah Anderson there. I know Jep's obviously got him as well. So a few of those ceiling scores missed. So it meant I slid 109 spots. So still 659. So still a solid rank. But unfortunately, Mitch gained a little bit more ground on me, trying to catch him being at the top. But so not too bad a week, but still a few things to improve on in the side.
I think Mitch is ranked 119. Is that right?
It's
just outside the top
outside,
one.
Yeah, just outside. So, yeah, your mate, Tim.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. I've the rivalry's quietly disappeared, mate. It's been a bit of a peter out. I think considering he's doing so well this year and I'm not doing so good. I might keep my mouth shut. But for me, mate, I had a 21.90, so not a great score. Pretty much held rank. I think I maybe climbed 100 spots or something along those lines, but pretty average week, and still trying to head in the right direction. Still telling myself there's a long way to go. So we'll do +3, -3s. What about you, Selbs? Who would be your +3, -3 for the week?
Trying to keep it relevant to fantasy. Oh, Zach Fisher, I'd got him in this week, and he obviously delivered. I know we all owned him at the start, and again, that's why I don't want to react too much to the rank, because I feel like a lot of what the good coaches were doing at the start of the year was correct, just things didn't go our way, such as McKercher getting that injury, which meant a lot of us offloaded him, and then he got the role back at halfback flank, went well. Fisher being sub, we traded him out. He's since back in that role and doing well. Sexton, we saw what he did on the weekend. So all of our starting picks, which you'd probably say were failed starting picks, if things went the way, they could have been knockout picks and it'd be a completely different conversation. So yeah, getting Fisher back would be the plus. Negative, Tim English, as I said, I've had to do a bit of manoeuvring in the ruck, and all those at the top have whether it's Cherry, Gawn, Grundy combo, and trying to take on them by paying extra for Tim English, who's given up the points to them. So he gets my -3.
Awesome. All right, Bales, what about you, mate?
It was going to be Luke Ryan until Harry Sheasel got pretty close to him, so I probably sort of broke even with that trade. But I'll give my +3 to Jordan Dawson. I've heard sort of behind the scenes that apparently Dawson was not sure if he was going to play as late as Friday, from what I've heard. So that was quite interesting that it still ended up getting up and playing and playing pretty well, and nearly got the Crows over the line. That last quarter that he played was very, very big. So plenty of good contested marks. I don't think there's too many better midfielders at the moment in terms of contested marks than him at the moment. So yeah, he gets my +3 and got a few good matchups to come. -3 goes to Todd Goldstein. I had to watch that live as well, but it also goes to Port Adelaide. Today, watching Vicentini playing, I just couldn't fathom how Jordan Sweet wasn't back in that side today. Vicentini got thrown around by Meek, and I was partly hoping Hawthorn were going to win the end, because then I sort of could have said, oh, well, they lost because of that, but they got over the line. But yeah, hopefully Vicentini dropped this week, and hopefully I don't have to have Goldie on field again. Otherwise, I'm going to have to try and I've got to get out to Marshall or something if Sweet doesn't play. So Goldie could get my -3, unfortunately.
All right. Well, I didn't think I'd be giving a +3 to this guy this year, but Matty Crouch. I don't know about you boys, but my midfield absolutely stunk it up this week. I think I saw a few coaches who had similar scores in their midfield as well. When Butters was my only other coach, my only other player in the midfield that turned up. But Matty Crouch with a 119 was actually my highest scorer. Well, tied with Harry Sheasel, but I think he deserves it for the week, so we'll give it to Matty Crouch. And then my -3, got to give it to Sammy Walsh. I think he's my lowest scorer on field, a 68. So to have that from your what was my M1 before the week is pretty disappointing. So yeah, that's my +3. -3. All right, we'll do a quick update on the Content Creators Cup. So the AFL Fantasy Content Creators Cup, proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth. Make smarter financial decisions. Where winning coaches will get $5,000 for their favourite charity. And just a reminder, there's a bunch of free gifts valued at over $3,000 available for every AFL fantasy coach. Just head across the infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim your free Financial Freedom Masterclass and a stack of tools and resources to help you make smarter financial decisions. If you have a mortgage, I'll teach you how to pay it off after 3 times faster. If you're paying too much tax, I can teach you how to save thousands each year. And if you're someone who's committed to building your wealth, and I can show you how I bought 13 properties by the age of 27. So just head to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim. And for more details, Bales, how did you go this week, mate?
Got a win over Holmesy. So moved to second on the table, 8-2. And the good thing is I don't have any coaches with me on 8-2. Sort of alone on, you got Mitch 9-1, I'm 8-2, and then you got DC, Holmesy, Jepper, and Mini Monk on 7-3. So good to have a game gap in the top 2, which is nice. So hopefully we can stay there. A few big weeks over the buys, I think, to come.
Yeah, well, I went down a Jake. That's Dunkley's Donuts from Hat Chat, 21.90 to 22.53. And yeah, it's starting to look pretty dismal for me in the Content Creators Cup. I've slid to 12th now with a record of 4 wins and 6 losses. Overall, it's starting to look pretty stinky as well at about 11th. But yeah, we've got 5 coaches in the top 1,000 there, so doing pretty well, I guess. Some of the guys at the top, but we've also had some coaches.
Stater had a massive week as well with 23.05 as well.
Jeez, wow, what a big week!
Yeah,
All right. Time to get stuck into what we're here for, the games. All right, let's kick it off with the Thursday night game, which was Gold Coast defeating Geelong by 64 points in front of 12,000 people at TIO Stadium. Bit of a typo there in the notes. Late changes here. Yeah, that's all right, Bails. Sam DeConnick was a late change there with hamstring tightness and was replaced in the selected side by Zach Toohey. And then during the game, Alex Davies replaced Mac Andrew after he injured his leg in that kind of crunching, not tackle, but contest. And then Jai Clark came on as the sub for Geelong, replaced Cam Guthrie during the third quarter.
Yeah, almost scored as many points as he has done in a number of games where he's got a full game. But few players to talk for this game. So Noah Anderson, top scorer, the 142. He was obviously fantastic for those owners that have got him. There's a bit of a pod in their midfield. Sammy Flanders continued on his great season with a 122. Toot Mello just sort of ticking over those low tons with a 108. Holmes continued his good year with 106. Anyone that jumped on Conway, 94, he'd be pretty happy with that if you jumped on him for a 1-week play. Dempsey, 81 was good if you're able to loop him on. Closey, a bit disappointed with a 63 as well. Selby, obviously you mentioned Sexton before. 126 was massive. Is it just simple as you got to try and get him into your side this week?
I think so. The fact he did it in the wet. I reckon this time last year when they play up there, we all jumped on a Atkins and a Fiorini, and that all didn't eventuate because it was so hard to rack up those plus sixes there. But the fact he could do it in those 2 games up there, and now the job security is the other issue, and knowing that Will Power's out for another 3 to go, that's probably all you need to make enough cash. So he'd be, 32 possessions, 10 marks, and it's not like it's come out of nowhere. He was doing that in those VFL games when he went back to the VFL. So, another one of those misses where if only he didn't get dropped in the first place, he'd still be in everyone's team. Yeah,
exactly. He was fantastic. He was everywhere on Thursday night. Tim, Brian Myers continued again, 105. Obviously, you've been quite sort of consistent with saying that forward line you're probably trying to leave almost alone for the time being, and you're happy to run an extra couple of rookies. But Brian keeps getting it done. Is he a guy that you're looking at targeting potentially before his buy, or is he someone that you might be looking at round 15 post his round 14 buy?
Absolutely not. But I am looking at actually now starting to upgrade my forward line. But the two kind of standouts would be a Zach Fisher and an Alex Sexton right now. Obviously, yeah. I mean, the other thing is that we've been talking for the past few weeks. We've been talking through Dylan Moore. We've been talking through Liam Baker. We've been talking through Jack McRae. We've been talking through. Oh my God, there's been another 4 or 5 forwards that we've been talking through. And as it turns out, probably the best options are, one was priced at $502,000 last week, and the other one is was $650,000. So you can get those kind of higher scoring players or players that can certainly compete with the top 6 for much cheaper.
Yeah, or maybe the other one was $980K last week. It might be over $1 million. I'm sure we'll talk about him shortly. Final one we'll touch on, Selby's Tom Stewart, 55. Obviously, conditions didn't suit, and he just hasn't been very good this year with Max Holmes back there and a few other guys. Is he a guy that you're holding till he's round 14 by then moving on, or are you happy to almost, if you've got nothing else to do, you're happy to maybe move him on? If you could maybe go him down to a Fisher and then maybe go a forward rookie up to a Sexton, is that something that you'd maybe consider?
Yeah, I think that last one would be it. We've seen this year coaches jumping off premiums and then getting burnt, but then also persisting with some and then them not getting the bounce back. So it's been a tricky year in that regard. But if you can use it as a way of getting to someone cheaper to then get the cash to go up, which because he's quite cheap, there's not many you can do. But yeah, I think I'd rather own Fisher than Stewart. So that's the move you'd look at. probably,
Yeah. I don't even know what the price gap would be between them now. It'd be pretty close with Fisher going quite well. So might have to have a bit of money in the bank, but have to see if coaches can do those moves. Beautiful, Tim. We'll move on to Friday night.
All right, Sydney defeated Carlton by 52 points in front of 44,000 people at SCG. So Braden Campbell was the sub who replaced Robbie Fox in the third quarter after he injured his shoulder, and then Jack Carroll replaced Jacob Wienering after he got that cork in his thigh in the third quarter.
Yeah. Isaac Heaney, 125, just continues to impress him and go very, very well. I wasn't going to touch him too much, but Selby, I know you put up that tweet obviously earlier saying it was sort of wonders why it took City this long to put him in the midfield. What have you made from his year so far? And do you think that this is something we can expect for the whole season, regardless of who comes sort of in or out of the side?
Well, he's played 10 games now, so and he hasn't really had a blip. I think the one game he had the 90, his numbers wise, I think he still kicked a couple of goals and had 20 odd. So I always kept thinking, surely he can't keep this up, but you probably can the way he's going. He's fully priced though, so I think if you've missed the boat, you wait till post-buy. But there's no reason why he can't. 24 and 3, he can't be doing that every week, but he seems to keep doing it, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He's an absolute gun, and he's doing it week in, week out. Nick Newman, 118 for any coaches that jumped on him. It's a bit of a pod. He repaid the faith. He's had a couple of good scores his last 3 weeks and put up a 9 in between that as well. So it could be someone that we look at potentially as early as this week. Errol Goulden, 116. I'm a happy owner, and hearing on the radio that he wants to try and play 100% game time is exactly what I want to be hearing. So he only comes off for 1 or 2 rests a game, so it probably doesn't make too much difference if he stays out there the whole game. But he got it done again. Brodie Grundy, 105, was also pretty solid as well. Sort of been a bit sort of up and down, but still getting those scores ticking over. And Sam Walsh, unfortunately, with a 68 poor score there as well. Final part, I just want to get your thoughts on as well, Selby, because I know that you were keen on guys. Well, Matt Kennedy scored a 98 with Chera out of the side. So where do you sit with him after watching this game on the weekend? Because Carlton struggled, but he was one of the guys that was sort of standing up at least in the midfield and trying to get some things going for Carlton. Yeah,
well, I think out before last week, outside of his game, he was sub. I think he's been the third highest averaging forward. So he obviously could be fourth averaging. He could be a top 6. There's a lot more risk with him though, with role plus job security. And even if the role is in the midfield, like that's the way footy's played this day and age, it's so much easier to get those possessions as those defenders than a mid. So it's a bold play, and it'd be if you want to go really unique, if you're sitting around my ranks, you want to do something a bit different, maybe go for it. But I'd feel like there's more safety in numbers with the cheaper two who are playing in defence.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. Beautiful, Tim. We'll move on to Saturday.
Probably worth before we do, probably worth saying. I know I gave Sammy Walsh obviously my -3, but he was pinned by Jimmy Jordan, so he ran with him all night. So hence why he did have an opportunity to score too well.
I just want to quickly touch on that. We won't go into too depths, but who do we think he goes to on Thursday night? James Jordan. Does he go to Bond? Does he go to Bailey Dale, like Treloar maybe? What do we think?
Oh, you probably have to think of Bond, right? Well, that's what I think anyway.
I hope not. Selby, what do you reckon?
I think Bailey Dale. Well, it's hard because he's gone Noah Anderson into Whitfield, into Jordan Clark, into Walsh. So they're all kind of skinny-ish, hard-running types. And obviously the difference is Anderson and Walsh play midfield, which we thought he just was a defensive forward, but he went in the midfield to do that job. I reckon he'll go to Dale, who's playing that sort of rebounding halfback. Horse has done it in the past with Ryan Clark before him, so it's just that we mentioned Nick Newman, but Carlton haven't really got a rebounding defender to lock down on, so maybe that's why they did Walsh instead.
Yeah, no, it'd be something to note for Coach on Thursday night. Beautiful, Tim. Move on to Saturday.
Well, bad news for you, mate. Collingwood defeating Adelaide by 4 points at the MCG in front of 63,000 people. The subs here were Harvey Harrison replaced Will Hoskin in the third quarter after he injured his hamstring. And then Ned McHenry replaced Lachlan Scholl in the third quarter. A couple of injuries to note out of this game. So McInnes was concussed. He copped a knee to the head. And then Rankin did his hammy right in the last couple of seconds of the game.
Yeah, I'm so sick of losing to Collingwood by less than a goal. It's so frustrating. Anyway, Matt Crouch, 119. Tim, as you mentioned before, he's had a great season. I think it's back-to-back scores as well, over 110. So just keeps getting it done. He's been very, very good. Mentioned Jordan Dawson with a 117 before. He was also big in that game. Nick Dacos was also just did Dacos things, 40 disposals, just got it done, just sort of game after game. Still side bottom. Hopefully, not too many people went up there after 1 week, only the 55 points. And all the Collingwood rookies, 62 for Joe Richards, 55 for Sullivan, and 54 for McRae. So all sort of quite close to each other. So it'll be interesting to see sort of with Collingwood team over the next few weeks who stays in and who doesn't. But Selby, unfortunately, we're going to talk about my boy, Lairdy, but in a not too great way. 61, not great. I think that's his second lowest score in probably the past 8-9 years or however long it's been. It seems like Matt Crouch has overtaken him almost in that midfield as the second highest scorer, and it's just Laird. He was being consistent with those hundreds, but he has shown this year he's got a few of those 70s and 80s in him. If you've got him, I guess you're probably holding with these easy runs, but sort of what do you sort of make as his prospect for the season going forward?
Yeah, I think Rankin going down might help him. It just time on ground, just looking at them, and Crouch was 65%, so that was low himself, but 68% to Laird. Saligo 76. Like, they're knowing that they want to get Saligo in there. He's almost their number one pick. Dawson started forward, a lot of centre bounces on the weekend, and then pushed in there. So there's always going to be a bit of roulette there. So you're just going to have to rely, which he is. Both Laird and Crouch are point per minute studs, yeah. But it's just a nervous watch, knowing that if they miss a rotation, if they get caught on the bench, then that 68 becomes a 65 like Crouch did. So made Crouch score even better on the back of that. But definitely keep holding, but it's a nervous watch. And even Crouch, he obviously dominated and did a great hold for those he held with his suspension. But yeah, it's always a nervous weight, those low percentages, particularly when you're talking about a Gordon playing 100%.
Yep, exactly. Beautiful, Tim. We'll move quickly on from that game, so I want to try and forget about it. So we'll go to the next game.
All right, GWS defeated by Western Bulldogs by 27 points in front of 7,500 people at NG Stadium. Subs here were Connor Stone replaced Darcy Jones in the first quarter after he injured his hamstring. So that's a bit of a shame for those coaches that have got him there. And then Caleb Daniel replaced Riley Garcia in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so low-scoring fantasy game, this one. Whitfield was sort of the top sort of fantasy relevant player with 100 points. Ed Richards had a pretty good game as well with 97. Adam Treloar also pretty solid with a 94. But then a few of these lower scores. So, Tim, I just want to ask you about sort of Tom Green with the 83. Sort of what have you made over him? Sort of, I know obviously you got him, with the injury. What have you made over him the last 2 weeks? He had a couple of sort of low scores back to back. What do you think do you want to, if you didn't have him, would you want to see something from him this week to sort of look at him post-buy, or are you still comfortable jumping on him post-buy even if you put up a lower score this week? What do you think with him?
You might find for coaches with the last couple of weeks his scoring, and then also with his buy just around the corner as well. Maybe coaches will be looking elsewhere. But, I mean, obviously the buy doesn't really impact too much. I mean, every player's going to have a buy between now and the end of the year anyway. But yeah, there's probably there might be other options people are looking at. Yeah, although he's one of those players, he's liable to put a big score on your head. Who's he playing next week?
He's got Geelong this week.
They're a pretty easy matchup for mids.
I do think an O'Connor or a Blitzarves match up well against the Greens. So it'll be interesting to see if someone goes to him there. But he's priced at 782, so he went down a fair bit. So he's going to be very cheap. So I think we still can jump on anyway. The Tim English with an
Have a look
80
at that.
was also...
Have a look at that as well. Not much different from Clayton Oliver.
Yeah, exactly. Tim English, poor score as well with an 80 in a good matchup as well. Jack McRae, 72, just sort of frustrating again. And then Selby, I want to get your thoughts on the Bont. It's funny enough, both his lower scores this year come after his two high scores this year. So what have you made of him? I've owned him all year, and he's been a very frustrating own. Sort of, you're not quite sure when he's going to go on a tear, and then he sort of puts up a dud. What have you made of him this year?
Yeah, he hasn't been beast mode like there's games last year where he looked like a man amongst boys, tackling, pulling it out, running, kicking, doing everything, taking clunks. Whether he's sore, I was listening to this game on the radio and they kept noting he's been playing sore for a couple of weeks. I'm not sure if they've had some intel there or if they haven't been watching, because obviously he didn't look that sore the week before when they smashed Richmond. I know they've tagged him in the past, GWS, with the Callum Ward again. I didn't watch this live and the commentators didn't say much, but I'm not sure if Ward gave him any attention. But as you said, it was just a low-scoring game all around. It was wet. It was really wet at Swan. In Sydney, it doesn't stop raining in bloody Sydney. So, yeah, he's a frustrating own. I've seen a bit of chatter that last year was an outlier fantasy-wise, and he might just not be that 105, 110 midfield. He might just be 100 averaging midfield, which is what he's doing this year. But I think he's got higher than that. English being out of form obviously doesn't help it either, getting only 33 hit-outs in a wet game. So, frustrating. I've got him as well in my super coach. So he's not the Bont of last year, but I feel like he's going to get ticking soon.
Yeah, that's the hope for everyone that's owning him out there as well. And obviously those people that just brought him in this week, so he's a popular target. So hopefully he can improve this upcoming week. Beautiful, Tim. We'll move on to the Saturday night games.
Awesome. So St Kilda defeated by Fremantle by 17 points at Marvel Stadium in front of 19,000 people. Subs here, Zach Jones replaced Cooper Sharman in the third quarter, and then Tom Emmett replaced Frederick in the first quarter after he was concussed running back with the flight of the ball.
Yeah, that was a big hit, that one. Plenty of big scores in this game, so I'll just rattle a few off. Jack Sinclair and Luke Jackson both with 118 apiece. Luke Ryan got a 126. He was also bigger, especially in a couple of quarters, went over 40 points there. Nasai Wangney Miller a 110. Riley Bonner continues to get it done with a 109. Brad Hill got a 109 as well. He was also very good. Hayden Young, 108. Caleb Sarong got a 103 as well and was also very good there. Brayshaw didn't quite get amongst it, but put up a 94. He's been a guy that's put up a couple of big scores, been an 80s and 90s guy most of the year, which has been frustrating for people that have got him. Jeremy Sharp got an 88 as well and sort of ticked over another solid score, and Darcy Wilson did the same with a 72. Couple players, Selby, Ryan Marshall. Obviously, a lot of people went for Tim English a couple of weeks ago, but Ryan Marshall's gone back-to-back those 160-plus scores, and I feel for those coaches that went him down to Sweet and have been stuck with that move. Is he a guy that, I guess, don't break your team to get him in, but during the buys when you've got three trades, would you be, if you've got a Sweet or a Cherry or someone, would you making it almost a priority to look at bringing him in as one of your rucks?
Yeah, well, I think we saw back end of last year he was the best fantasy scorer in the game, and many earmarked him this year to be the number one scorer in the game. We just were dealt with a discounted rucks to start with, so he wasn't a very popular starting pick. But then, those who did jump on him then decided to go down to Sweet, which is just rotten luck. Because if you watch that Port Adelaide game, which I did, when he's limped down to the race, looked like he did a meniscus, and then limped back on and got himself a 70-odd after 60 the week before. The next week they picked Jack Hayes, so the writing was on the wall. Then you've got a Sweet who's up there, cut fresh off a 90 and looking really good. So the merit was there, and this the sort of one where what do you do? Like, you can't let it impact your decision making going forward. Because I think the decision was right. And then he's grabbing out of the ruck now. He's getting kicks. He's doing tackles. They're hitting him up short. He was just doing everything. 171. So knowing that he's lowly owned around the top, it might be a good little differentiator to jump up to him for sure.
Yeah, no, trying to make that a priority, and the buys, especially with Goldie sitting there at R2, need to move off on him. Jack Steele as well, Selby with a 77. I didn't get to watch this game, but I'm assuming as a Freya man yourself, you would have watched this game. What happened with him? Was he just didn't get around it? Was the knee strapped on? What happened with Jack Steele?
No, knee was fine, and he had his 8 tackles. You just look at the numbers. Like, I'm a Ross Lyon fan, and I think he's a genius. But then again, like, they're losing. Everyone thought they're going to be all right this year. And their numbers, every week, their halfbackers, which Sinclair played halfback this week, just gone, get massive numbers. So their top scorers outside of their ruck Marshall was Sinclair, Wanganeen, Malira, Bonner, Hill, Battle were their top 5 scorers. And then we've joked for 2 years about how much it's good to be a defender against the Saints. The Dockers' top scorers, Clark, Ryan, at the top. Like, surely soon they've got to start changing things up at the Saints. So basically, it's just a game of the defenders kicking it to each other and chipping it around, and the mids didn't really get the chance to. When they did, it was either the athletic Jackson or Marshall getting the clearance themselves. So it wasn't a heap of stoppage points to get around for genuine stoppages. So I'm prepared to give, the Brayshaw and Steele, who both had low ones, a pass there, because there was a weird old game.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, Tim, I was going to say, we've been saying every week about Jordan Clark, 97, 99, 93, couple bad scores there. Finally got his 100, 141, mate. I don't know if you saw much of that game, Tim. But wait, you don't have Jordan Clark, do you?
No, mate. I've, he's one of my. I know. I decided to go Christian Salem instead of Jordan Clark.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Well, I know Mitch was very happy.
Wisely.
Yeah, I know Mitch was very happy. Mitch's spicy take on the Friday, their Friday live show. He said Jordan Clark's not only going to go over 100, he's going to go absolutely go bananas and go 120 plus. So Mitch will be sitting happy with his rank, but also spicy take. So he's going very, very well.
He brought in Sexton as well, didn't he? Brought in Sexton.
Yeah. Bloody Mitch.
Yeah.
He's having a good year. Beautiful. Move on to the other. We'll move on to the other Saturday night game.
Brisbane defeated Richmond by 119 points in front of 27,000 people at the Gabba. Subs here with Shadow Brain replacing Hugh McCluggage at 3/4 time, and then Matthew Coulthard replaced Lafau at halftime. Lafau hurt his jaw after flying for a mark, and Mansell had a head knock there. Bit of friendly fire from Nank.
Yeah. Not too many fantasy...
Sorry, I will not really fantasy relevant, but the one match review suspension this week is Eric Hipwood for that sling tackle.
You know what I thought you were going to say? I thought you were going to say that the only time that a team had this exact score and won by 119 points was the 2007 grand final. That's what I thought you were going to say, but there you go. Sorry, Port fans, I had to get one into you tonight. Josh Dunkley, 105. Was good. Owners that had him probably were hoping for a little bit more against the Tigers, but he's still happy with a ton. Kyle Lohman went very, very well. Then 99. I know Jet was very, very kind of him, talking to us, Tim, about Lohman, and he was going about him. And if he wasn't sub, we probably would have started with him. So unfortunate, we're missing a couple of these 80s and stuff from him, but he was solid. Shai Bolton, 87, was good in a losing side there, and it's been pretty solid all year with a couple of low scores, but he could be a forward that we potentially look at post the buys. Bruce Revel, 67, was solid as well. Kane McAuliffe is a guy to keep an eye on as a downgrade option this week. If you've already got a Joe Richards or something, he's got a low break even now, and I think he's going to be in that team for a while with a lot of those injuries there. And then Jaden Short with a 50. That was just horrendous. I was looking at him before the game last week as an option, but he's definitely crossed himself off of my list. Selby, the one player I wanted to sort of discuss with you, Dane Zorko, 148. He just keeps getting it done. 35 years old. I didn't think he'd be able to keep going. I thought something would happen, but he just keeps getting it done. Is he one of those guys that post his round 12 bye, you just have to bite the bullet and pay probably going to be well over $1 million if he's not already post-lockout? Is he just one of those guys we're just going to have to jump and get? Yeah,
got to respect him as a 35-year-old doing what he's doing, and also coaches who have jumped on him in the last 4, 5, 6, even some got on there really early that have enjoyed this big run, because it was a gutsy call for coaches to get on him knowing the injury history, but he's just, as we keep talking about, a Sexton and a Fisher, the role. He's got a role with a bit more authority demanding the footy that they just use him. He's a better user than those guys. So they put it in his hands and he's actually doing better with it. So in a year of short of forwards, knowing that there's one of them going up 110s plus, I've got the averages there, but he'd be getting close to Heaney, wouldn't he, as the highest averaging forward?
Yeah, he's averaging 116.4. Yeah, he is. Yep, he's over Heaney. Heaney's a 113.1. So he has scored. I see it's only the 33 points difference, but we talk about Heaney having such a good year and Zorko's going better.
Yeah, and they're not just like Heaney's because he had the good round zero matchup. Heaney, that a lot of people jumped on him, whereas Zorko is still, I haven't got the numbers after today's game, but he's owned by 50% of the teams at the top. So it's still a unique play, the Zorko move. And he doesn't look like slowing down. As I said, Heaney's more chance of slowing down playing as his midfielder kicking goals than someone collecting those touches at the half-back flank. So the only thing which will slow him down, which you don't want to happen to him because he's going so well, is that soft tissue. So,
yeah. He is now the second highest averaging player in the game behind Ryan Marshall. So very interesting. He's priced at 1.02 million, 88 break even, and his next 3 games, Hawthorn, then the bye, then he's got the Bulldogs and St Kilda. So it could be very, very big next 3 weeks for Dane Zorko. Beautiful, Tim. We'll move on to Sunday.
All right, well, as we turn our attention to the Sunday games, just a quick reminder, if you're joining us live on X or YouTube, you can let us know your questions by commenting on those platforms. But now turning to, probably one of the most relevant games of the week. Essendon defeated North by 40 points in front of 43,000 people at Marvel Stadium. So firstly, late change here with Darcy Parish being pulled out before the game with calf tightness and replaced in the side by Elijah Sardis. And then subs for this game were Dylan Shield replaced Harry Jones in the 4th quarter and Eddie Ford replaced Charlie Lazaro in the 3rd quarter. And the only injury out of this game was Miller Bergerman injured his hamstring.
Yeah. A funny story with this. In my draft team, I had Nick Newman vice-captain, locks out first game Saturday. So I thought, take 118, put Sardis on my field as captain. It locked out. And he wasn't even on the emergencies yesterday. And then he was put in the emergencies and then played. So had his captain score for a 60-odd. So that was quite fun. Still won my matchup somehow. But, yes, that was quite funny. Zach Fisher, we talked about him before, 121. I think he's a very good option. I think probably almost post his bye just because he's got Port and then the bye. But, hey, if you haven't got round 12 players and you can take a player on this week, he's one of those you could definitely look at. LDU, 113, his best score for the year. So good for those coaches that have held him for this long and good to finally repay the faith a bit. Jai Caldwell, 105, looked really good today. Probably had the added responsibility as well with Parish out of the side, but he got plenty of the ball getting around the ground there. Tristan Sherry scored a 98, so he was also pretty solid. Tom Power, 85, got a little bit more midfield opportunity, which was good to see. Got some good clearances, so hopefully they keep him more in that role. Zach Merritt, 78, is going to drop in price. Prime target, I think, for that round 15. Round 14 buy in round 15. And then Todd Goldstein, me and Mini Monk are the only 2 coaches that have actually got him. So we're going to have to try and deal with him this week. Harry Sheasel, Tim, 119. I don't know if you watch much of this game, but what did you and if you didn't, did you watch the game?
I didn't, mate. So I was actually going to throw it back to you guys. First question I had was, what role did he play?
So would you want to expand on that on him?
He was mid-forward as he was the prior couple of weeks. So difference I found, he did pop up. Heat maps are off this AFL app. I was just going to see where he got his possessions. Because it did appear that defensive half, 66%. He seemed to, after saying midweek, he doesn't worry about possessions, bob up for a little bit of slow play, kick and chip, particularly late. I think his last quarter, he had a 39-point last quarter with 4 marks, and Fish had a 52-point last quarter with 4 marks, and Bailey Scott had 32-point, and Tucker had a 31, and Comben had a 30. So they were doing a bit of chipping, and he got amongst it. So, definitely if McKercher's out, and he's still not playing halfback. Obviously, that's the directive, and a few tweets for non-fantasy folk were saying that how much better North looked with him playing up the ground. So I think that's his new role. So Bails, I still don't mind the move you did because I would have rather to Fisher, obviously, but if you did it to Ryan with that nice matchup, like the cash Sheasel would have lost this week, he would have made a bit from Ryan, so he's still looking okay. But it's a tough one. It wouldn't. It's going to be harder for him to get these 120s for sure. But he's a freak, isn't he, Sheasel?
Yeah. Watching that game, he actually played. It seemed like he went into defence when Eddie Ford came on. It sort of seemed like and Miller Berman got injured, they sort of flipped a few things, and that's where he got his chip. And at three-quarter time, I was thinking 80. If he gets to a 90, I'll be pretty happy with that with the Ryan trade. But he got to 119, that sort of made the trade probably a bit of breaking even, because I still went Roberts to Oliver as well, so I was still able to get that upgrade on the other end. But Sheasel was not good sort of cheering against him, because I do like him. He's a good player, but yeah, it wasn't great watching him racking up all that ball back there. And then the final player, was there one player I was going to touch on? Oh, yeah, so Nick Martin. Selby, I was watching this. I was at the game watching this, and I saw in the second half, Nick Martin went forward and didn't really get amongst it. He was tracking along for probably a 115 score, and sort of didn't really get much of the ball. What did you sort of make when he went forward?
Yeah, I just saw the flashing up on the screen, and I saw him with Luke McDonald on him, and I thought, oh, maybe Luke McDonald's gone to play a forward tag role. But yeah, it was actually Martin playing the forward role, and I think straight away he hit someone up, lace out, goal assist. So he does use a ball pretty well inside 50. I think the other times this year we've seen him move down back is when they subbed on a Hind, but Hind wasn't subbed on. He played all game. So it wasn't a great thing for owners. And it's probably a watch this space, I imagine.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I was using the ball very well in the defence. I don't quite sort of understand why they did, but sort of just didn't make sense to me, because I thought he was going well back there. But hopefully he will not. Tim, I know you were looking at him captain. Did you end up going Nick Martin captain?
Yes, mate.
Yeah. So sorry, mate.
There was plenty of dud captains this week. So, I actually kind of felt like 95 wasn't too bad a score.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Move on to the drama game of the week.
Yes. Yeah, Port Adelaide defeated Hawthorn by 1 point in front of 36,000 people at Adelaide Oval. Subs for this game, Zerk Thatcher replaced Ollie Wines after he had those heart palpitations, which is a recurring issue for him since 2022. That was at quarter time. And then Luke Bruce replaced a Chamber Chaff in the fourth quarter there.
Yeah. Not great when Crows go down to close loss and then Port win in a close game. So,
brutal.
Unbelievable. Dan Houston, though, was massive, 136. A few people saying he might go big this week, and he certainly did that. So for those coaches who got him, particularly in draft as well, a few people would have had him in draft there. Lloyd Meek, 108. I really wish I had that extra 100K to go him over a Goldie last week, because he's put up some big scores the last few weeks. And then Dylan Moore, 62, was also quite poor. Port Adelaide, tough matchup. It was wet, so you probably sort of can excuse a little bit of him for that there. And the forward line sort of is just a bit of a mess. But Selby, Zach Butters turned on in that last quarter. I think he had 17 disposals or something like that. He got to a 112. Do you see him being as a top 8 midfielder, or sort of whereabouts would you have him in sort of like a rolling sort of midfield?
Yeah, there's a blanket over a lot of them, but the fact that bye makes it easier for him, knowing that he's going to play in the trickier rounds. I thought with Rosie early in the season, his form and even Horn Francis's form, that Butters might get less attention, but anyone who tuned into that game and watched him almost single-handedly in that last quarter get the win for them, you'd be silly not to put some attention into Zach Butters going forward. So I think that's the only concern, but he seemed to avoid that tag for 10 weeks now, and after being a Brownlow favourite last year. So he's going very well, isn't he?
Yeah. I'm interested to see if because Liam Shields went to Zach Merritt today. I probably should have mentioned that as well when I talked about Merritt with a poor score. sort of that would sort of spring to mind. North Melbourne maybe want to send a Shields to Butters, but I guess the sort of the caveat to that is, can Shields keep up with him, because Butters is just so quick and agile. So it'll be interesting to see if that sort of happens and how that all goes on the weekend. Beautiful. Tim, we'll go to the final game of the round, which you're in attendance for.
Oh, what a game it was. My Lord and Saviour, Harley Reid, bloody absolutely starred again. Yes, West Coast defeated Melbourne by 35 points in front of 43,000 people at the stadium. Tyrell Dewar replaced Luke Edwards for the Eagles in the fourth quarter, and Taj Woden replaced Jake Lever in the first quarter after he was concussed in a big contest with Jack Darling.
Yeah, I was getting quite sort of not confident, but I was looking forward to the game this upcoming Sunday at Adelaide Oval, Adelaide and West Coast. But now I'm very nervous about that, because after watching
Eagles might be favourites, mate.
Oh, maybe, and Yo probably will be back this week as well. So I'm a bit nervous for this game. Well, Tim, obviously you're at the game, so you can have your spiel about Harley Reid. What did you think? What did you make of this game? That don't argue on Petrarca and Oliver, the goal that he kicked on the run. What sort of
all he does is don't argue. Every time he gets tackled, he just throws out a don't argue, and most of them, break the tackle. Yeah, look, I mean, and then he's kicking goals. He's taking hangs. I mean, I don't think he took a hang today, but he's turning out to be well. I mean, and then the other thing was probably from more, not just dusting him up. Certainly when Melbourne were coming back in that third quarter, it was primarily because Harley Reid was off the ground. So there is a lot that he's doing for our side, and when he's not on the ground, we still go back to looking pretty average. So but yeah, I mean, it was just beautiful twilight game, beautiful weather over here. Nice to have a win, and great to watch him play.
Yeah. Is he a guy that you'll be holding probably till he's round 14 bye, round 15 bye when he's got the bye? Are you holding him through to then? Yeah,
look, I mean, I've got to look at my trades for this week, but certainly with, I'm hoping that Sweet comes back. I mean, certainly the comments you made about Vicentini, I think were accurate. So hopefully Sweet comes back this week, which means I'll be looking to get off Tristan Cherry, and that will enable me to probably look at bringing in like an Alex Sexton and a Zach Fisher this week. So that enables me to keep people like I've still got a Dempsey, I've still got a Harley Reid, and I'm probably going to hang on to a lot of those players through the buys and hope that can kind of restore some sort of respectability to my year.
Yeah, exactly. Clayton Oliver, 94, was solid in his game. I think he still looked really good. He got some attention from a friend of the show, but probably not too much for a friend of the show, Dom Sheed. It was a bit annoying him tagging Oliver today, but Oliver still did his thing. No marks with the attention, but 94 was good. Tom on ground was near 80%, which was also good to have a little bit of an uptick there. So he's just sort of just working his way back, and I think he's still a good target if you didn't jump on him. Gorney, and shout out to Jordox, actually, who I was at with a sort of a Crows panel show last night with Keys and O'Brien over here in Melbourne. He was actually telling me last night he had a feeling that Gorney wasn't gonna have a big game today. So shout out to him for sort of projecting that. But West Coast did a good job in nullifying him for a lower score. Petrarca just continues to sort of disappoint coaches that have got him in their side. Another 73. In a good matchup, and then even the Melbourne rookies with a Blake Howes with a 50 and a Caleb Windsor with a 46. So both are disappointing. But Selby, we want to get your thoughts on a bit of a pod defender, and this would probably last play with chat about before we move on to the next part. Liam Duggan, another 110, just continues to get it done back there. I think he's had that one poor score, which against Port Adelaide in round one. Is he a guy that you'd be potentially considering to bring in?
Yeah, well, there's enough chat on here. It's not like it's come from nowhere. I think we know he can put up massive scores, high marks, high kicks, gets some centre bounces, gets some kick-ins. He kind of does it all. Eagles like that chip mark game. So certainly a high unique with the ability to go very large. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but you watch a game of footy and don't even notice him getting a kick, and then you look at the stats and he's got a 110 there. So whether it's he's due for one where he doesn't score, or if that's just what he does. But yeah, certainly a nice unique.
Oh yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. And Tim, are you looking at him as a West Coast fan?
Probably not. I mean, I just think we've got too many stocks still in that defensive line for me to look at probably bringing him in.
Yeah, cool. Beautiful. All righty. We'll move on to the next part, Tim.
All right. Well, why don't we get stuck into some questions then, Buzz?
Yeah, cool. We'll go a couple here. So Sean's got the first question. So he said, hey, boys, which two go first out of Fife, Reed, Lazaro, and Graham? So, Selby, which two of those four guys would you be trading first?
If you can still get the upgrade you want, the worst two are obviously Lazaro and Graham, particularly with buys coming up and the red dots ticking along.
Yeah, no, I think I would agree with that one as well. Tim, J AFL MTB's got this one. He's got 5 primos and 2 mid prices in round 12. Is he cooked?
5 primos and 2. No, I don't think you're cooked.
Well, how many have you got on that round 12 buy? Do you sort of know how many you've got?
Oh, Jesus, hang on. Let me have a quick look. So I've got. So I've got 2, 3 primos, 4. I've got 5 primos. Hang on, yeah. No, actually, it's 6 primos. I've got Tom Power, Isaac Heaney, Zach Fisher, Tom Green, a Lockie Whitfield, and a Harry Sheasel. So, but look, that still leaves me with I think it's 21 on field, 21 green dots on field. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you got trades this week and then 3 trades next week as well. So you're not cooked, nowhere near it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I've got the 4, but obviously I traded Sheasel this week, so that's probably why I'm the one less. But I have Ryan in round 13, so I think that probably works a little bit better with my own buy structure. So Selby, this question sort of from me, but I think it's probably good for sort of everyone here. Sort of on our benches have been sort of a bit sort of just almost destroyed over the last couple of weeks with a lot of red dots building up there. When it comes to sort of your downgrades, upgrades, would you be looking at holding guys like, I don't know, like your Dempseys and your Wilsons and your Harley Reeds and even closing guys like that? And would you prefer to be doing like, if you went like a Garcia down or whatever, or Cadman down, or some of these red dots down and going another one up to like a Sexton, would you be prioritizing that over maybe getting like a sort of a top end sort of premium?
I think so, this close to the buys. Depending on your structure, like as Tim said, if you still got the 21 green dots, and they're less daunting, the buys now of this and last year, with it being 4, 2, 6, 6. When it used to be 6, 6, and 6, that's when it got really tricky. But yeah, the red dots are coming up, and if that might be buys, we all know that's a good chance for coaches who have planned well to gain rank. So if you can still get a decent upgrade, then yeah, that's certainly a strategy to do.
Yeah. Tony Tran's got this question. Tim, thoughts on Ed Richards?
Jeez, he's got to be in consideration, the numbers that he's been putting up. We don't have any word on Libra at all, do we?
No, I think that's probably going to be a bit more of a longer term. I can't see him playing at best before the buys, and that's round 15. So, yeah, we just have to see what happens.
Yeah, look, I mean, once again, I really haven't been considering him too significantly, only because once again we just seem to have so many defenders in our stocks, right? So the idea, although the higher scoring players this year certainly do seem to be defenders, so maybe it's not a bad strategy, but yeah, look, I mean, like he's got to be in consideration.
Yeah.
Let's ask the guy. What do we think? What are Selves? What do you think, mate?
Yeah, he's a gun, and I think he's shown, which I disagreed with, when Saliba didn't play. He was laid out that game versus Freo, and he played pretty well. But that's when Fife had that monster. That's when Sarong had 17 clearances, and I was thinking, well, Richards, like, they've got to change something up there. He might not be the man, but just watching him the last 2 weeks, I think even if Libba were to come back, which I hope he is, but I doubt he is going to be back in the short term or medium term even, Richards has that role. So the fact we mentioned some of those scores, Bontempelli, Tom Green, English, because it was a low-scoring game and low marks, and he still managed to score fine, or good at least, in those conditions. If he can get on the end of a nice one in the under the lid or something at Marvel, he could be a great unique. who knows? Maybe he's the one who James Jordan goes to.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting to see what James Jordan does on the weekend. Milo Gregory's got this one. Selby, can he bring in Tom Green this week with him on by the following week?
Yeah, well, as Tim said, he's got a lot. He can still field 21. So as long as it fits with your structure, like the old school used to be, don't bring in a player with an early buy. You might as well wait a week, get them in, and then they're not missing one. But the fact that there's only 4 teams in the buy the first week and 2 on the second week, it might be an advantage to have someone having a buy straight up. So as long as the knock on it is, who are you going to bring in after that first week of buys, because there's only 4 teams to trade people in from. So as long as you've got all that planned, I could still see a case you can bring him in for cheap.
Yeah. Barracks has got this funny one. 2 weeks in a row with the captaincy on Ryan Marshall. Shot me up to a 630k rank. He can have my babies. So, yeah, far out, having him back-to-back captains is a very, very nice. We got Reese FM, so a Lions fan here. So he's saying Zorko was my quiz partner for the Telstra AFL Finals quiz against Josh Kelly from the Giants. I think he learned how to footy after that. He actually has been receiving a great new medical remedies at the moment, which he also documented at the start of the season. So maybe that's why he's going well. So no, that might fill us with a bit more confidence with bringing him into our team.
What's the medical remedy? Considering he's a 35-year-old, I might need to get some.
Yeah, exactly. He's been great. So, Lockie Russell's got this one. Selby, I brought in Fisher and Sexton last week. Is there any a mid-pricer that sort of you've got as like the next sort of guy that you'd be looking at? Is it an Ed Richards, or would you have maybe someone else in mind besides him?
Well, this is what I was saying at the start, where you just need to nail some of them and you're one trade ahead, because everyone's going to try to play catch up now. So, yeah, whether you identify one, but then if it backfires, then you're back level, or now you know you've got them in the bank, you can potentially play a bit of straight bat now, which is where I'd be inclined to do.
Yeah, it's good position to be in, potentially, being that week ahead. So, yeah, Lockie, you just have to go hunting. But I do like Ed Richards as an option there. Tim, Joel Helmwell's got this question. Thoughts on Freya as a downgrade option from the Dogs? But I'll probably also say who would be the guy that you'd be looking at this week out of like him, Joe Richards, Kane McAuliffe, maybe a Sullivan still if you hadn't got him. I don't know if he's too expensive. I haven't seen his price. But do you have a favourite rookie downgrade out of those guys?
I'm still probably leaning towards the Collingwood rookies, only because look, still more injuries through the Pies side there. So it might just give them a little bit more job security for the next couple of weeks. But I don't look. I think their time is certainly limited. But although you've been on a revel. I've been kind of off him. Haven't really liked his tank and his time on ground. But he had a good score again on the weekend. Freya, once again, I haven't really watched him too much. Kane McAuliffe, that'd be another rookie to look at. It's probably probably got some good job security now, and obviously going to get some midfield timers there with the way that the Tigers are going. So, I think he might be the one to jump on.
Yeah, Richard's got the lowest one, -14 break even. Then you've got a Rebel -7, Freya -3, and McAuliffe's got -1. And even a Conway, if people jumped on him, but he'll probably have the team this week knowing how Geelong goes. Selby, do you have a favourite downgrade option out of those guys you'd be looking at this week?
I don't mind that shout if you got both of you mentioning McAuliffe, just because how bad Richmond are. I was surprised he hasn't been playing the last couple. I saw Uzo mentioned today saying that they're not going to go into a rebuild, which I don't know where he is. I hope they don't do the West Coast mistake of they probably already have waited a bit too long to press the trigger, but he should be getting games. And yeah, what I like about the Pie ones are that they're mature age, but what I don't like is that there's so many players to come back when you're going to need them, which is going to be in round 13 and 14. So who knows? I've never been a rookie expert, to be honest with you. I normally just jump on the most popular traded in target and back with them.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to sort of get. Well, I'm sure we'll be all listening to Plus Six Pod on Tuesday to see what Jeppa thinks of McAuliffe and a couple of these other ones there. We'll go a couple more here before we wrap up as well. Sean, Bails were playing each other in the paid league this week, coming for year 0. I hope I can stay undefeated, mate, but we'll see how we go. PG Chip, Tim, said, do you tick off these trades? So he's going Darcy Wilson and Harley Reid to Zach Fisher and Alex Sexton.
Yeah, why not? Get off the rookies and, get on the halfbacks that, might be able to put some ceiling scores up there.
His caveat to that is, or would you prioritise fixing up your bench and fixing up some red dots to get green dots on the bench? What would you be keeping Wilson and Reid and getting green dots on the bench, or do you still think that you can do the green dots next week and you'd be getting rid of? I know Wilson and Reid have been very good for us, but would you be trading in of Fisher and Sexton?
Oh, this is really tough. It depends what your bench is looking like, right? Like, I mean, I think that they're pretty good gets. I'm not sure that you want to be missing them. I think they're going to be rising up in cash. I think a lot of coaches are going to be getting on them. So I'm not sure that you want to be passing them up. But yeah, depending on how your bench is looking, we've got buys ahead. Do some buy planning, see how you're going there.
Yeah. Michael, first of this question, Selby, can you still do the Harry Sheasel to Luke Ryan trade? So for Harry Sheasel's 963K with a 141 break even's got Port Adelaide, then his buy, and then you've got Luke Ryan's at 925 and with a 79 break even, he's got the round 13 buy. So it's not as much cash as what you made last week. Do you think it's not a little bit late to do that now, or do you think you can still do that trade?
It's probably late because he's already dropped the cash and you've missed the Ryan good matchup versus the Saints. The only advantage of doing it now is knowing that Sheasel with McKercher out, and we don't know how long he's going to be out for, but he still stayed in the midfield forward, so there's less likelihood of him going 120 than there was if he were to move back. So you could, but I wouldn't be doing that this week. If you could extract a bit more cash and find someone cheaper, potentially I'd do that. But I think Bales, I reckon your trade last week, hopefully for you, especially with Port Adelaide this week and then the bye and Ryan in round 13, you'll be able to trade Ryan to Sheasel come that week with the extra game with a bit of extra cash gen, I think, and I think you'll come out ahead.
Yeah, that's the hope with that. And part of me is like, might even get Sheasel back if he's playing this forward role and keep Luke Ryan, because he's going along very, very nicely with some big scores. I think we'll go the final one, Tim. Josiah Mitchell's got this question. Would you tick off Sheasel and Reid to Luke Ryan and Sex? So obviously we were just talking about that and maybe a little bit late, but the fact you're getting Reid to Sexton, would you potentially entertain that? Or do you think that you'd be looking at maybe doing a red dot fix up and maybe going like a Reid to Sexton if you're looking at that?
Well, once again, I mean, I think like Selbs was saying, is now that we kind of know that role is pretty solidified. I mean, the fact that, with McKercher out, Shees was still playing that role. I think getting off Shees is a pretty aggressive move. And then certainly if you're fixing up a red dot, I think that's not a bad way to go. So, yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, cool. Beautiful. I reckon that will wrap us up.
All right. Well, let's just do some quick early trade plans if anyone has any idea yet, which obviously it's early in the week. I mean, Bales, you probably have your trades already locked in. So why don't we start with you, mate?
Yeah, mate. Obviously, I'm always trying to look at what I can do the next week. And I think it'll be doing a Cadman down to a Joe Richards at this stage. Could be a McAuliffe if Jeppa can convince me to do if he thinks that McAuliffe's a better one. But I'm thinking maybe McAuliffe the following week and a Will Graham to an Alex Sexton and benching Reid, but then being able to benching Closey and putting Reid on field and being able to maybe loop between a few. But obviously the caveat to that is if Jordan Sweet's not named, I'll have to maybe get a little bit creative and might have to put Dempsey on field and go a rookie down and go a Goldie go Goldie down a rookie and go McRae up to Ryle Marshall. That's probably what I'm looking at.
All right, cool. What about Selves? What about you, mate? What would your Supercoach team?
Good question. Good question. Sexton's probably in the gun. I said I got Fisher last week, so I'm eyeing off Sexton. But also would love Clayton Oliver. As you said, that time on ground was a positive, and he's always been better in Supercoach and Fantasy, and he's cheap in both. So, tossing up between those two, I think was upgrade targets.
Yeah, so for me, we'll be dependent on a Sweet playing, but if he's playing, I'll be able to trade out Tristan Cherry and then bring in Zach Fisher, and then that'll allow me to go up from someone like a Hugo Garcia to an Alex Sexton, and that will leave me with a pretty much full playing bench, assuming that Riley Sanders comes back, excluding my ruck R3. So healthy bench going into the buys. All right. Well, Selbs, mate, thanks very much for making the time available. I know you were putting down the kids before, so we really appreciate it. And, of course, we appreciate all the work you're doing. How's things going along at Marira's Magic this year, mate?
Oh, we're ticking along, Guesty. Got a nice little crew there. We if they're following my Supercoach advice, they're probably around where I am, but we try to have a bit of fun along the way. So thanks for doing the late record to fit us in. So appreciate the work you guys do, and we'll chat to you soon.
No dramas, mate. Anything you want to plug with the listeners?
No, good, mate. Just obviously Mirror's Magic at Twitter if you want to jump on. If you don't follow us, we try to be nice.
We're part of that. We're part of that part of the fantasy community. All right, Bails, mate. What about you? What do you want to plug?
Not too much. Obviously, as always, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Western Standard Time. We're doing another live Q&A on the Tuesday. So if you've got your questions, we'll be able to answer. Apologies if we didn't get to all of them tonight, but we'll be able to answer the other ones on Tuesday night with potentially one or two special guests, which we'll get to as well. And then while we got Selby on as well, really enjoying the Bolts platform. Selby currently was ranked second last night, but slid down a tiny bit. But when the lockout lifts, I'll get my Gouldens VC dub, mate. So just shout out to you with the Bolter platform. Really enjoying that this year and doing good work. You and the Wongster with that. So thanks for that,
mate. Second, hope you can take it out. That'd be nice.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I got Mitch. Of course, Mitch is up there as well, so I've got him to deal with. So we'll have to see who's might be a Fanatics and Fanatics and Ball Boys showdown. So yeah, it'll be very interesting.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us. And, of course, special thanks to those who joined us live. And in particular, thanks to those who sent in their questions as well. Now, please don't forget to follow, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review wherever you are joining us. And finally, don't forget to tune in live each week on X or YouTube, whether it's after the final siren of the round for our round review, whether it's our Tuesday night Q&A, or whether it's our Friday pre-lockout chat. Rage Trader Ray, best of luck with your research, and of course, we'll see you all next time. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.
See ya.